Hi guys, I'm Rhonda with the Sawgrass Education team. Thank you for joining us. We do these workshops every Wednesday, so make sure you check out our website and sign up for them. Today we're going to deep dive into PrintMate. So I have been very lucky. I've been on the PrintMate product pretty much from, well, actually from day one. I was actually the person who did round tables with existing users of our previous print management software. And I did roundtables to kind of determine what they wanted or didn't want to see in a new print management software. So I've been involved from day one. And so I kind of established this thought in my head pretty early on of what I thought the best feature of PrintMate was. And that is the fact that you can customize it to be whatever you need it to be. So I'm going to show you probably the easiest path first, and we're going to jump into some of what I think are the different paths you can take with PrintMate. I'm going to show you some functionality that you normally wouldn't get to see, just so you can see what it is and if you may want to use it or not use it. So we're going to jump right in and do that. All right. All right, so I'm going to open PrintMate. If you have not seen, there is a new PrintMate version. The way you're going to know that new PrintMate version exists is you are either going to get a pop-up message telling you to update, or you are going to see this little red dot next to settings. All you have to do when either of those things happen is close PrintMate and reopen it, and we'll put that new version into place. Sometimes if you've been in class with me, you'll know that I have a version that may be a little different than what you have. I don't today. This is PrintMate as it currently exists in that newest version. If you ever want to see what version you're on, if you just click on PrintMate and hit About PrintMate, you'll see that we're currently on 2024.0.0. So that is that new version that released yesterday, and we're actually going to get to play with one of those functions a little bit today. So as I was saying, to me, probably the easiest way of using PrintMate, the most base level is, you're adding a file. You're either hitting create, add file, you're sending it to PrintMate, you're sending it to PrintMate, you're sending it from DesignMate, however you're getting it into the program. The easiest thing that you can do is go right past design files to print settings, and you're just going to click on these presets and choose the preset that is closest to what you're printing or pressing onto. Normally for me, what that's going to be is, if it is a hard product, you can really go into hardboard or metal and choose that and use that preset. So that is anything that's made of metal, that's anything that's made of that hard board. You can choose hardboard or metal, and then it's going to do all the settings for that. And then you can just hit that print button. If you are doing anything that's made of fabric, whether it's a shirt, whether it is a tote bag, no matter what it is, you can go ahead and choose that polyester t-shirt setting, garden flag, any of those, you can use that setting. It's going to do all of the settings for you. And then the only thing you're double checking in this case is you're setting your preset, and then you're going to come down here to your media source and your media type. So what brand of paper are you using? And then, oh, sorry, I said that wrong. It's actually going to be media size and media type. So you're setting your paper size. If you don't have letter, you're choosing the size you want. And then you're choosing the media type. If you haven't heard the conversation from me before, there are really two base coatings of sublimation paper. There are a few others, but most are going to be like what we call type A or what we call type B. So if you're not seeing your paper listed, the default is type A. But if that's not giving you the output, either you feel it's leaving too much ink on the paper, or you feel that maybe the ink is a little too wet, you can try type B instead. But if you're not seeing your paper listed, that's kind of where you're going to go to get that and get that working for you. All right. So again, the easiest way to use PrintMate is you are going to come in and you are going to choose your preset, and then you are going to choose your media size, so what size of paper you have, and your media type. And once you've done that, you can hit print, send that to the printer, and done. Now we'll go one step further, and that's color management. So there are two base modes with color management in PrintMate. One is vibrant and one is photographic. So I always say, what's more important to you, color accuracy or color appearance? So if you want the colors to be as close as possible to what it should look like or what the colors are on your screen, you're going to use photographic mode. Vibrant is going to take that profile and then it's going to bump up the saturation a little bit, and that's where you get vibrant. So photographic and vibrant is kind of that next step. So those are your base settings in PrintMate. Before I get into some advanced stuff, does anyone have any questions? All right, no questions. We will jump right back in. All right, so where everything else lies in PrintMate is going to be in the settings tab. So we're going to click on settings and we're going to start with the general settings. To me, this has the most control over what your screen looks like and what you're seeing. So those first two buttons have to do with silhouette cutters. So we do have it so that you can open up a file in PrintMate, whether that's coming from the Silhouette software or whether that's coming from DesignMate, or you're just opening a file that you have. You can do any of that and then set it up for the Silhouette cutter and send it to the Silhouette cutter. Now, this is only Cameo 3 and Cameo 4. That's the only two this is available for. But if you do have a Cameo 3 or a Cameo 4 that you can attach, you can go ahead and do those settings here. One is going to be always display registration marks. That means that option to see the button to click to add registration marks. And the other is prompt to cut after each print. So what we have done with this is we've made it so that there are two workflows. So there are people who print and then cut. And then there are people who print, cut, cut. So that's going to determine whether you want it to open the cutter after printing, meaning you hit print and your cutter options open up immediately. I'll show you what that looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is while I'm in here, I'm going to go back to my general settings. I'm going to turn my mirror off since I am going to go to my cutter. Now, normally I'm going to change my settings here. I'm going to make sure this is all set up for heat transfer vinyl. And then I'm going to add those registration marks. So those registration marks are going to go just like you would need for a Silhouette 3 or Silhouette 4 cutter. I'm going to go ahead and check this box, this open file and cutter after printing. And then I'm going to hit print. Now, well, I can show you after. So I'm going to print. That's going to send it to my printer. And then it's going to say to select my cutter. I only have one cutter attached. It is connected by my printing cable. I'm going to hit continue. And now you're going to see that my settings have changed and I am now seeing settings for my cutter. Now I can go in, I can tell it what kind of material I have, I can tell it what cutter I have, and then I can change these up if I know they need to be adjusted. I know what I want for this. Everything is set. It says there's no media, so I'm going to go ahead and pretend that I printed. I'm going to do a little kitchen magic. Put that in my cutter just so it reads it. And then once it read it, I could go ahead and hit cut. Now, I didn't actually print, so I'm not going to cut this, but I just wanted you to be able to see that screen. The other thing is you are noticing that my cutter, when attached, is in my printer list. So when I have a cutter chosen, and that's simply by having the cutter connected to my computer and turned on, I am seeing the cutter in my list. I would be able to do all my settings here just like I would if I was in the Silhouette software, and then send that over to the cutter. Now we don't need to print Mr. Froggy, so we will go ahead and turn that off. All right, so any questions about the cutter piece before we move on? I know that's not something we've done a lot of videos on or a lot of lessons on, and you haven't seen, so any questions about that before we move forward? All righty. Okay, so I'm gonna go back into my settings. If you are not cutting and you're not using the cutter, you can unclick these. Those two options disappear off your screen. If you don't need it, don't have it there, then that's not in your way. So you can go ahead and get away with that. Now, this next one is close jobs after printing. In our previous print management software, it was an automatic. When you hit the print button, the software closed. PrintMate does stay open. I did say early on that the selling feature I thought for PrintMate right off the bat was that you could customize it. Now I feel it's that it's an actual application that opens that you can function within and everything's in one spot. So right. That is for Silhouette cutters only. So if you do have a Cricut cutter, you can go ahead and turn those off because they're not anything you're going to be using at this point. So you could turn those off if you're using a Cricut cutter. All right. So in PrintMate, if I have a job open, I don't know why I closed poor Froggy because he's going to come right back out again. If I were to hit print on him, this job does not close, it stays open. So I can go ahead and I can open up other, I have my button clicked, I forgot. I can add other tabs and keep all of the tabs open. Why does that help? If you're sending multiple jobs at once, it just depends on your workflow. If I want to get a job ready now and then maybe print it later, there would be several reasons why that may be the best workflow for you, is to do it that way and just open multiple tabs. But if you'd prefer for those tabs to close after each job, you can go ahead and hit close jobs after printing. Now, there is a feature that's just been added. We're going to get to it in just a second. It was in the new release that is going to make this a little less necessary. But the main reason I insisted that we keep this button here was for those people using cutters. So that if I were printing and then wanted to come back later and cut, I would be able to just click on the tab, open it up, and do what I needed to with it. All right. Okay. So the next option here is automatically start. Now, if you're on Windows, yours says Windows. I'm on Mac, so mine says Mac. And what that means is that when the computer boots up, it goes ahead and opens PrintMate. Great thing to have, so you don't have to go searching for it to open it when you need it. It's always going to be under your hidden icons menu in Windows and then up top on Mac. That way you always have it. But again, if you don't like things automatically opening and there's too many windows when you start, you can always unclick that as well. All right, so let's talk about this crop to image size. I'm gonna have to pull up a new file for this one. All right, so one of the things to know about PrintMate is that what it pulls up is it brings your files in with the artboard. So if you're, say, in Microsoft Word and you were to send it, it's going to be an 8.5 by 11 page. In most software, it's going to be the print area. So this particular image is created in DesignMate. I think this is the one. It is. So this is a tea towel. It is one panel of a tea towel. The artboard on that is going to be 4x9. I can see this right here in design files. I see that my dimensions are 4x9. Now, clearly my little starfish is not 4x9. It's just that the artboard was. So if I were trying to print multiples of these, I don't need the whole 4x9 area. And that's where this crop to image area comes in. So it's going to take all of that extra white space, do away with it, and you're going to see my image gets much smaller and goes up top. The actual image is under 2.5 by 2.5. So I can save a lot of space if I were trying to put multiples of this on a page. I think that's ganging is when it's multiples of the same image. Nesting is when it's multiples of different images. But with ganging, I can take it down to just that image size and I can put multiples on a page. Now, that may be something that you feel you want to do with everything you print. If you're coming in from, say, Adobe Illustrator and you always preserve your artboard, that may be a great thing to do to get more on a page or just to make it a little more manageable, because sometimes it'll be just a little bigger than the page and cause issues. So if that's the case, you can just go in and click this automatically crop to image area, and every time you add a file, it's going to do that automatically. All right, so here's my favorite thing, guys. I am so thrilled about this. I have a couple of colleagues on here helping me with questions. They are going to be nodding their heads even though they don't have their cameras on. I have been talking about this forever, and I am so excited. So if you haven't met me before, I have been with Sawgrass for 5 years. I started out in tech support. And so I was here during what I refer to as original creative studio. So we had a creative studio before the current creative studio. And so I was here for that. And then the Sawgrass Print Manager was called the Virtuoso Print Manager at the time. So there was a function in Original Creative Studio where you could just go into a panel, pull up all the jobs you had sent to the VPM, the Virtuoso Print Manager, and you could pull them all up and choose the ones that you wanted to print and send them straight to the VPM without having to open them up in Creative Studio and then go to the print button and all of that. It's been 4 years. I can't even remember what all the print function was, but I do know you had that little area that you could go to. To me, that was probably one of the greatest losses with Creative Studio and SPM was we did not have that anymore. So we have added that, but with a twist. So from day one, this has been one of the things that I've been most excited about getting here into PrintMate. And this is this recents option. So I'm going to go ahead and close my files, and you're actually going to see it. So anytime you come into PrintMate, anything that you actually hit the print button on is going to be here. Now, the reason I say this is with a twist is because this is any way that you get files into PrintMate. So whether you hit the create button, drop it into a quick print folder, use the send to PrintMate functionality, or send it from DesignMate, all of your jobs are right here. So remember I said my new favorite thing about PrintMate is it's an app that you can just open. It's all you have to do to print. If it's something you've printed previously, you're just going to open it up. You're going to click on your file, and it's going to open it right into PrintMate. And the really awesome thing is it remembers the settings that you used previously. So if I click on my recents button right here on the left side, not only am I seeing my files, I'm seeing the settings I used. So one of the things that I have said is if you know that this particular part was something that you did on frosted glass and you can't remember what settings you used, click on it. It's going to have all the settings right there, and then you can open that job up. Now, one of the other things you are seeing is that you're in control of how many jobs are saved. So this isn't going to be a massive list if you don't want it to be. You can just save your 10 most recently printed jobs. Now, did you get asked the question? It is a good one. If I were to open this hard up and change the settings, does it overwrite the old settings? And it does. So whatever the most recent settings were, that's the ones that are going to be remembered. So when we talk about our lovely settings panel, you can choose whether you see that option. So if it's not something you're going to be using, you can go ahead and unclick both buttons. If you want it to be there, but you don't want that main window with those files on it, you think it's messy or you don't want that, you can unclick it and you won't see that feature. Now, I did ask the question of our head developer. I said, why would you ever hit unclick save recents? So it's not saving the files anymore. And the reason is it deletes all of the data. So if I were to uncheck this, it's going to eliminate all those files that I have in there. And then that gives me the ability to start fresh. So yesterday, when I was preparing to do some videos on this and then to talk to you about it, I went in and deleted all of my recents that I didn't want to be up there for everyone to see. All I really had to do was uncheck the button, come back in and check the button again, and it would add a fresh screen, but I didn't realize it at the time. Okay, so UX optimization, you are going to leave on. Spot colors are going to be they're very in-depth way to adjust your colors. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. We've gone in depth into this before, so we're not going to go in depth into it today. But if I were to go to my spot colors, I have a chart. This is my cupcake chart. This is the color that my cupcake is that light pink. But actually, let's do my other frog. So this is a different frog. He was a darker colored frog, a darker green. And so with my frog, I knew that wasn't the right color when it printed. So what I can do is I can do a similar color chart, print it out, find the correct green, and then change the output value. So the PrintMate knows that if I bring in a file that has these colored pixels in it, the pixels with these RGB values, it's going to change them and it's going to do these RGB values again instead. Now, this is in the Academy. You can watch this if you want to learn more about it. It is a pretty high level, so a lot of people are just going to click on their settings and click off on enable spot colors, and then because you're not using it, you don't have to see that. The final option on this particular panel is going to be whether you want to see it in inches or millimeters. So for my friends outside of the US, this way you can default to millimeters instead of inches, and everything that it brings in, it's going to see that in millimeters, which is really awesome for you. So before we move on to the other tabs, anybody have any questions? All right. Well, before I move any further, I want to start a poll. So I'm going to open up a poll for you. You can go ahead and ask these or answer these questions. I'll launch that for you. And I want to learn a little bit more about who's with us today. And while I was doing that, did any questions pop up?
No questions yet.
All right. Now I will ask the question, how many of you have played with PrintMate? Have you tried it yet? If you haven't, that's perfectly fine. We want to get you very familiar with it. We want you to feel comfortable. That's why we're here each week. If you do have questions, we're here. I do have assistants here as well to answer any questions you have. So please just jump in and play with it. And I'm hoping this kind of helps you feel a little more comfortable too. All right. Love all those answers about making gifts for friends and family. That's how I see myself with sublimation, as I do make a lot of projects. A lot of newbies, which is great. And then some who've been with us for a while. So awesome. All right, I'm gonna leave that poll up for just another minute or two, and then I'll let y'all see the results. Okay, let's go back into the setting tabs. All right, so I'm still in my settings. I'm going to move on to the next tab, which is devices. Not a lot that you personalize here. The one thing that you will be doing is, if you're like me and you have access to 1 million printers, you can choose your default printer. So anytime you have more than one printer, by having a default set, when something comes in, that's the printer that always pops up first. So that's probably the biggest like customization piece on this particular tab. Yeah. So, Mary, yeah, there's a lot of people who are selling a little bit and then also are making things for friends and family. And so always a great way to use your printer. I actually hope I had a project that I did last week that I was really proud of. So I'm hoping to share that on our Instagram page next week, just so everyone can see what I've been up to, because I was really proud of it. All right, so here's the other big one that I think is very important, and that is this manage page sizes. And it's really, so if you're referring to cutting with the cutter, this is really for things that are going to get sublimated. So it's things that are going to your sublimation printer, and then you're going to use them on, then you're going to use the cutter with those sublimation files, is generally what you would do there. I really, if it's something that you're printing on a regular printer and then cutting, you'd probably use your current workflow on that. This is really for sublimation projects. So let's talk about manage page sizes. I think this is very important. So if you are outside of the US, whether you're watching this video recorded or watching it live with me, or taking the class live with me, you need to come in here and choose your A4 and set that as your default paper. That way, when you open it up, you're not seeing letter first, you are seeing that A4. So that is one of those defaults you can do. The other thing you can do is you can come in and any papers that you're not using, you can shorten your list by going in and deleting them. The other thing you can do is you can come over here. So here's the rename. You also are going to see the remove. So if I wanted to get rid of my A3 plus, I have a 500. I'm never going to be using 13 by 19 paper. I could come in and I could delete that, and then I don't see it. If A3 plus to me doesn't mean 13 by 19, I could rename that paper and call it whatever I wanted. So this list of papers, the ones that you're going to see on that main page of PrintMate, really can be determined by you. You get to choose which paper you see first. You get to see, you can choose which papers you see or don't see. I don't use A3, A4. I can delete those and shorten the list, and you can change the names. So the names can be what makes most sense for you. Now, the other thing that I think is very important is send to PrintMate. Send to PrintMate is where you are sending files to PrintMate from other software. So whether that be Adobe software, whether that be Corel, even the Silhouette software, you would just get a file print and choose send to PrintMate as your printer. Now your settings, you set these before. That way you're telling it what size paper it's going to be on. You're going to be adding those registration marks, whatever you want to do. You can do all of this here. And then once they've saved, then when you send to PrintMate, they open up here with the correct paper size, with the correct settings, everything ready to go. You will notice there is an automatic printing button. That means that if you hit send to PrintMate, it would apply those settings and send it to the printer without it ever opening up here. So automatic may be something that you want to use if you're sending to PrintMate from another program. And then all of these other settings, go ahead and do them. That way it's always opening up on the right type of paper. It is going to default to what is set here. So if I were to set something up on 12 by 12 paper, it's going to come in on 8.5 by 11. So just so you know, it's going to do whatever it's seeing here. So if you are using a different size paper, it's very important to go ahead and to send to PrintMate and get those settings correct for yourself. All right. Now, the other one that I want to show you is going to be very, very similar. It's the same conversation, and that is your quick print folders. So you may or may not know there is a folder on your desktop. You can just drop files right into it. So if you're a Canva person and you have those PNG files from Canva, you can drop them right in that quick print folder and they're going to open up. Same thing, we're going to do our settings here ahead of time. And you're going to have all of that set and created. And so when it opens, it's going to open up with those settings. You'll notice that automatic print button is here too. So you can do that. And you can have multiple folders. So that means if you want to put all of your mugs into your folder named mugs, then it's going to open up with your mug settings. If you want to put all of your stainless steel tumblers into a folder, you can put them into that stainless steel tumbler folder, and they'll open up with your settings for stainless steel tumblers. So it's just another great way, and it is always best to go ahead and have those settings set. Now, for those of you who do have small businesses, I do know there are people who have one person who sets up the file and another person who prints them. This is fantastic for you. You have all your folders on your desktop. You drop all of the work into the corresponding file, and then you hit pause. And so that means, well, you would hit pause before you drop the files in. What that means is the files sit there until you come to this screen and hit play. And that way you can set them up, put them in the folders, and then someone come in the next day when you're not there, hit play, and they'll all open up, and then they can hit print.
Okay, let me get your price.
All right.
You know, that's right.
Quick print folder. So no, Mary, as far as someone may be unmuted. Did someone have a question? All right. So with the quick print folders, what you're going to see is, let me move this out of the way. So is there a limit on how many files you can drop in there? No, there isn't. Where the restriction comes in, and I'm going to go ahead and hit play because my coworker Nicole is on the call and she knows I'm going to be testing something in a week, and I am going to forget that, and then I'm going to wonder why nothing is printing. All right, so where the big thing here is what happens to the files after you print them. So it's going to hold on to them in that quick print folder. You can actually clean out what's there. You also can determine how long they stay. So if you want to use that as kind of a file storage system and you have your files in there, you can do that. You can say keep forever as long as you don't mind the memory being used, or you can have it clean up after, say, 3 months, after 90 days. So it's really up to you and how you want to do that. So I hope you're seeing that there is a lot of functionality in PrintMate, a lot of different ways that you can configure this and things that you can do with it. Whether you're the person who just wants to hit the preset and have it do all the work for you, or whether you want to set up quick print folders or even have some of these advanced features like the print and cut with Silhouette, you can do all of that right here in PrintMate. So I hope that helped a little bit. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to publish these results so you can see them. All right. So there's the results of our poll. It does look like a lot of you have a 500. I love the 500. It's so versatile, especially with that extendable tray that we have in the US. So you can do that 8.5 by 14. So I do love that printer quite a bit. Does look like a lot of you are making things for friends and family, and then some of you are selling too. So that's really awesome. And then, like I said, we have a few newbies, and then a lot of experienced folk who've been with us for a while. For those of you who've been with us for a while, please jump into PrintMate, give it a shot, see what you think, and then you can always reach out if you have questions. Please remember, you can open tickets with our care team. We are available as well. If you have played around with MyMates, I do have a group, Rhonda's Corner, so you can always join me there. And then we're here every Wednesday for these workshops. I'm really excited. Actually, you get to see me again next week. And so we are changing the format just a little bit. I'm going to introduce what I consider to be a big concept. And then the next 3 weeks, my colleague Kesley is going to be doing projects with that. So next week, we're going to be talking about photographs. Perfect time of year. We are in gift season. Between Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduation, teacher appreciation, and weddings. We have a lot of stuff coming up. So next week, I'm going to talk about photos, how to prepare photos for sublimation. We're going to talk about using photos and editing photos in DesignMate. We're also going to go out into Photoshop and into Canva. So we're going to go into a couple other programs too to show you how to use some of those things we talked about today with Send to PrintMate, Quick Print folders, and all that fun stuff. So next week will be a lot of fun. And then for the rest of the month, we're going to do Mother's Day projects, graduation projects, and even some teacher appreciation stuff. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me today. Is there any final questions before we dash? All right. Well, if there's no questions, thank you for joining us. If you have not done that update to PrintMate yet, please close it and open it, and then you get to play with recents, which I love. And I hope you all have a great day. Bye.